Hey there, just wanted to share something with you. It's been on my heart and mind for some time now. And with this year ending, a new year beginning, it's often a good time for us to take stock, to think about the things that have gone and the things that we want for the future, or our plans, our intentions. I find it a cool time to do that. And I just wanted to speak to anyone who's feeling a little bit disenfranchised at the moment. Maybe you're feeling stuck, maybe you're feeling blocked. Perhaps you're just disenchanted with the way your life's going or the way the world's going. Could be anything like that. And I just want to come from a place about 9-10 years ago, my whole world came crumbling down, so to speak. I lost my whole worldview, my belief system. In that time, I lost my father. And so it was a really interesting time for me. But it led me on the most interesting journey, and it's led me to understand so many different things that I wouldn't have had I stayed where I was. And perhaps if I can share just a little story with you and then bring it back to what I'm talking about. I loved reading this story about a man who was walking down the road. The circus was in town. I don't even know if circuses travel anymore, but they did when I was a kid. And here's this man, he saw this big elephant in this field by itself, and it was tied to this little peg in the ground by a little piece of string, little rope. And he was amazed by this. This huge animal could have just torn that thing out of the ground with little to no effort, but it stayed there. It never went beyond the length of that thin rope. And so curious, one day he saw someone tending to the elephant. He said, listen, I'm really curious, how do you get the elephant to be obedient like this? And the trainer said, well, it's very easy, but when they're young, we put chains on them, you see, and they pull against the chain, we tie them to a big tree, and sometimes they'll even hurt themselves. They'll stop pulling against the chain. And he said, with time, they realise that when there's something around their leg, they don't pull against it anymore. They've been conditioned. So to that elephant, that little piece of rope was like that horrible chain that it was cruelly trained with. But it just shows me that sometimes in our life we can be conditioned. So we have stories that we have been told. We have the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we choose to accept going forward. And so sometimes a situation arises and the stories of the past or the stories we're telling ourselves come to the fore, and that's how we choose our course, that's how we react. But what I'd like to challenge you with is, if you have a situation in your life that you're frustrated by, in this new year, maybe pull against it a little bit, because we've been conditioned by our culture, by our religions, by our upbringing, by certain things that might have happened in our life, good or bad. And sometimes these things are just a little rope that we just need to pull against, and it'll break and it will free us into something else. And I think this is a really cool type of exercise to do. Sometimes when it comes to a religion, take this from personal experience, people are a bit afraid to pull on that cord. Sometimes it's like that cord of a jumper. You're too afraid to pull on it because it might unravel the whole thing. And that can be quite scary, but it can be really rewarding as well. And so how I faced these sorts of challenges is I started questioning the stories I had been told. And I was questioning and observing the stories I was telling myself. If I became in a fear state or a triggered state, I'd start thinking about why am I reacting this way? And when you uncover and unpeel some of those layers that have been put on us, it leads to an incredible amount of empowerment, of freedom, and it gives us the opportunity to rewrite those stories or re-author those stories into something that's true for you today. And so for 2026, I'd love to share more on this, but for 2026, I'd love people to take hold of those false stories, the false narratives that they've been told, and to evaluate them, pull on them like that elephant with the string, break those, rewrite them, and experience something that you deserve in this year. So whether if you're feeling shame or guilt or fear or any of these negative emotions, I'd love for you to explore this. I just want to leave that with you, and that is you don't have to be bound by false stories. You can reauthor those stories. I wanted to share with you because I found that to be so powerful for me in my life, especially when it comes to the next year, setting of goals, whatever we do. This can be so powerful for us to start questioning, why do I actually believe these things? Or why are these things holding me back?